Hi guys, welcome to Trail Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Shimmons. Thanks for joining us again for our trail and ultra running show. I'm joined this week by Ricky Wynn. Chrissy can't join us. We're recording in a time zone and time that does not suit the west coast of America, but the show must go on. There's too much happening this week and we needed to talk about it. So let's get on with the show. Ricky, how's it going, mate? It's a bit weird seeing you on camera. Been so used to seeing you in person through the summer. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Like that, it is strange not to be able to see you in the flesh. We've had a fantastic summer, fantastic few weeks, but it's back to business. It's back to trail talk, mate.
We want to talk a little bit about some of the Golden Trail World Series controversy at the finish. We need to touch on the Camille Herron. I don't know what else to call it. Shocker. The what the fuck news, I'm calling it. Nnormal are showing us some fancy prototype type shoe that we're going to dig into. I've got some intel on that from various sources close to Nnormal, including a statement from them. But let's kick it off with Mammoth 26K that happened just a couple of days ago. Super close finish, and we'll come to that. But on the results, Elisine hipped Patrick to the finish by one second, and Philemon was third by a couple of minutes, and then Remy was back and forth. Mentioning Remy because he actually ran faster than 2023, and he said, "Look, I'm not as fast as these guys, so I couldn't beat them. So there was nothing wrong; they were just quicker." So I thought that was worth a note. And then on the women's side, Joyce continued to slay. She is an absolute machine. I've got a reel that I'm in the middle of making, showing her just absolutely powering up that first mountain. It's just like, she's just a metronome. She just moves. And then Madeleine Floria, second, kind of distant. But then the third place on the podium was a good race between Anna and Rachel. Rachel just, I think, got beat by 30-something seconds. But she's got so much range, like 8th at States, first at Gorge 100K, and then coming into 26K and throwing down. So, like, from a results perspective, what was your takeaways from watching that?
Hard to get away from the speed everyone was running. Hard to get away from it. It's like, for road runners looking at something like this, like it's got to blow your mind. As a trail fan, watching Elisine and Patrick descend down into that town, into that finish, like from 5K out, they're absolutely stoned. They're ripping it up, running on pretty technical stuff at like sub 3 minute kilometers. It is phenomenal pace. It's just ferocious pace. And that's them two. Like you said, Remy is running faster than he ran before. He just can't catch these guys. These guys are weapons at the minute, And a stellar race on the women's side as well. Okay, a bit of a gap from first to second, but still a super race. Super fast times again from those women as well. Another fantastic performance from Rachel Drake, who again is showing us that she can do it all. She can run any surface, any distance. So she's ripping it up as well. But we're going to have to talk about death finish, right? Death finish. Let's talk about that. Come on.
I need to just say one thing. The commentary said that in the the athlete introduction at the start of the race, they said Rachel Drake. It was as if they didn't really know her. And I hate it whenever you're listening to commentators and you're thinking, might know these people as athletes better than you. But they said that she was maybe out of her depth a little bit in this, and like a top 8 finish, top 10 finish might be good. And then she comes home in fourth, 34 seconds off of podium, and not a soft podium, up against the best that's out there at that sort of distance. Anna Gibson, like, just come off track season where she's been training 1,500 meters, and just very, very cool to watch. Yes, let's move on to big news of it. Dropped the reel yesterday. it feels like every runner in Africa is following me now and giving their opinions on the big elbow that Elisine seems to have shown. So I've got some stats and some things, but what did you make of it? What did you make of that 200-meter dive?
Because I've been reading the comments, it's in my feed as well, and I'm getting those messages, and I'm like, sometimes you're afraid, you don't want to upset anybody because people are like have strong opinions about this. But for me, as a fan, that was an incredible finish to an incredible race. Those two lads were just going at it, hammer and tong, hammer and tong. You know what I mean? They were to and fro, and they were going at it. They were giving it everything. They were attacking, they were defending, they were charging. It was unreal. And then there was that gap at the end, and Patrick thought he saw it. To be honest, he probably should have went to the left, right? He probably should have went to the left, and he would have had more room. But he went to go on the inside. And yeah, okay, maybe an elbow came up, maybe a shoulder came up, but I think all's fair in love and war. I think that was just pure grit, determination, fire racing, like Tour de France sprint finish type racing. I mean, just going at it, like it was unreal. And by looking at the comments that have come up all over social media, everybody was intrigued by that. That grabbed everybody's attention. Like it was, what a race, and the speed, what a finish. 1 second, unreal.
Yeah, the opinions seem to have been falling pretty firmly on it's good hard racing. We do have probably, I would say, 20% of opinions saying bit much, you wouldn't see it in the track, reverse the decision, all this sort of stuff. But it is the minority. And also, I got a statement from Greg Valet, who is the organizer and the main man at the Gold Trail World Series. I basically was chatting with him saying, dude, please lean into this. Like, get that mountain bike follow cam footage out. That is what we all want to see. Not purely this drone stuff. There's more video out. Lean into it. Get it out there. It looks amazing. And he said, we're going to be releasing that footage on our socials. So that'll be cool to see from another angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just watching it live, the live. Like, okay, I was watching YouTube videos of the live last night in bed, and I was glued to it. Just the way they're running, the flow, the speed, the no fear, if you know what I mean. Like they are running on stuff that is ankle breaking, is quad smashing, is everything. It's ripping you asunder, and they're just going at it. Like it's unbelievable to see the skill in what they're doing. It's so cool. What a sport! I don't care. It's the coolest sport in the world. They say it's so cool.
What did you think? Like, obviously they've had great cell service or Starlink or something, but there was no blips in the coverage whatsoever. In fact, I think the coverage from start to finish was one of the best that I've seen. The commentary was a bit shit. In around the top of the mountain section, the guys were talking over each other and stuff. Felt like maybe there was no defined anchor there to kind of run the commentary. But in terms of the follow cams and being able to follow the race, we got to see so much of it. What did you think of the way Elisine was surging and then letting Patrick come back at him and then just repeating this over and over again?
Yeah. He like that. Like I'd say, the feed was brilliant. The coverage was brilliant. The picture was brilliant. Everything was brilliant. It was like watching, let's say, a high quality Berlin marathon. That kind of quality. We were getting that from the sticks, from the mountains at altitude. So like
on trails.
So hats off to everyone there. Yeah, the commentary was a bit off, and they were a bit off in like who was in what position and stuff like that. But when you're watching it live, you're so glued to what Elisine and Patrick are doing because they're going at serious pace. And then watching Elisine, he's unbelievably smart, tactical racer. And he does those surges and then he backs off and then he lets Patrick go. And I think Patrick is gifted. He's gifted. He's come out. He's kind of like, look, he's just blown up. He's come out of nowhere. But I don't think he has that experience that Elisine had. And Elisine was using all of his experience to sort of like make Patrick burn the legs off himself, and then he'd attack, and then he'd back off, and Patrick would go again. And little by little, that's breaking Patrick down, I think, because I think Ellisine is seeing where Patrick is probably stronger than him. But then Ellisine on the downhills, he is frightening to watch. He's so fast. So fast.
As a racer, what do you think of those tactics? Is it something that you would consider? Is it something that you think might be beneficial?
Definitely. Like I saw a few people saying that's not true racing or something like that. But what are you talking about? Of course it is. Like, you do what you gotta do to win the race, right? Like, if you're there to win the race, you do what you gotta do. And if you feel like that this is gonna look, the likes of Ingebrigtsen is doing it all the time on the track, where he'd sit back and then he'd go and he let people. They're trying to dictate the pace. Ellisine wants you to run his race for him and then nip you at the finish. He's very, very happy to sit back there. And like, I myself, it's kind of a tactic I use. I'm happy enough to let somebody else do a lot of the work for me if I'm confident enough that I've got the leg speed at the end of the race. And that's just racing. You race to your strengths. If you don't, you're a fool. So I commend that kind of racing. He won the race by 1 second. It worked.
Yeah, so we're going to call you wee Ricky Kipangeno now from now on. Fast as fuck and takes wrong turns.
I even got lost in the Phoenix Park yesterday. Like, that's the man is ridiculous. I couldn't find where I parked. Couldn't find my van.
These things happen whenever you're too quick. So, in terms of the commentary and that side of it, is there anything what do you think would improve it for the next time? Where do they need to sharpen up there? And again, just for the audience, let us know down in the comments what you think was good or bad, or they could do better the next time. It would be interesting to know what your opinion is as well.
I think what you were saying about the drone footage, so more bike footage than drone footage would be better. And yeah, okay, get a little bit better on the commentary side of things, because sometimes when they're giving out wrong names and they don't have the splits and they don't have the times and the tracking is a bit off, little things like that. But like, at the same time, like for me looking at it, I can't even begin to imagine how hard it is to cover a race like that. Golden Trail Series are just so good at this. Like, they've been doing it really, really well in other races, but I just thought that was up another level. And then the race itself, because it's 26, it's a little bit shorter as well. It just was so exciting. It was so exciting to watch. Like, I was just chomping at the bit watching it last night. Chomping at the bit.
I would love to see some changes on the commentary side. One of my favorite commentators has always been Corinne. I think she's really knowledgeable. It gives a nice balance to it. She's American. I think the Golden Trail World Series English commentary would benefit from an American as part of the panel, as in, a two-person panel, have a British anchor and an American analyst, or the other way around. I think maybe a British anchor might be better than an American anchor, but just to keep that kind of Euro feel to it, which is at its core. But just feels like it was a wee bit lacking on that. And I know Greg has to be thinking, how do we improve? What do we got to improve? Because every year, like, it's going up another level. And right now, it's TV quality. We're purists. We are nerds of the sport. So we're able to look at it and go, well, that little 2% there could have been better, and that the commentator didn't know who that runner is. But somebody watching this in Eurosport is like, is that Joe Bloggs? Grand, that's Joe Bloggs. He's running really fast. Brilliant. That's good coverage. And if they're into the trail and they're running, they'll enjoy it. So we are kind of talking about the very small details, but even still, that's an amazing race. Moving on, I think we've covered that enough. And oh my God, like the last time we covered this subject, we're a man down ever since. We lost somebody that flew too close to the sun. Not on this topic, but we'll tip the cap to Wolfie that his Camille's statement wasn't all wrong. But yeah, look, Camille Herron does it again. Headline in some of the running media: US ultra runner Camille Herron involved in Wikipedia controversy. And for the audience, let me just sum it up very quickly. Camille and her husband, Connor, have been tracked using multiple email accounts and IP addresses linked to their personal email accounts and I think a university account, to editing both Camille's Wikipedia to bolster up her reputation. And they actually have flags on the account going back years where they've used sort of salacious terms instead of like neutral language that Wikipedia requires. That's not really the bad bit. Like, who would, who would say anything about putting a good word in or updating the record or saying, something nice about whatever they've achieved, because she has achieved amazing things in the sport. Then the same accounts going in and removing praise or accolades from other athletes, from Killian, from Courtney, from Yanis Kouros. This is fucking weird. What do you think about this?
When I heard, there was a lot of things going around early yesterday, and my phone was hopping, and it was like, what? I hadn't looked at it, and I was just like, what has she done now? What has she done now? What lunacy is she up to now? And look, take nothing away from her, right? Let's talk about her as an athlete, as a runner. She's phenomenal. She's got a huge fan base, and people think she is incredible. And some of the stuff she has done is incredible. But this is incredible on a totally different level. Like, I don't care if you're her biggest fan. You have to know that what she's just done or has been doing is mental and wrong on so many levels. Like, whatever about boosting up yourself, whatever about that, yeah, going in and saying that, she is regarded as one of the best or not the best ultra runner on the planet. So she says, right? So she says, but whatever about that. But then going on to someone like Courtney Dauwalter say, I would imagine Courtney has nothing but good things to say about most people. And then, like, say that, delete stuff that was said that was good about her, delete stuff that was said about Killian and loads of other athletes. I just think, I feel sorry for her. I feel like there must be something wrong with the woman, that she feels the need to do this to make herself bigger or better in the eyes of somebody else. But I want to know what the repercussions are. I want to know that, because you can't just go around doing something like that and then, no problem. It's just Camille. She's done it again. Let's see. I want to see what actually happens moving forward from here.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one. Like, they need to come out, in my opinion, with some sort of statement. Like, something needs to be said. I'm not looking for heads to roll, sponsors to drop them. I'm not looking at any particular backlash personally. But I think, like, if you fuck up or you do something really, like, wrong, you need to understand that you've done something wrong and you need to own it. And the problem is, this is so wrong that could you ever own up to this? Like, I can't imagine, I can't put my mind in a frame that would do something like this. It's so weird. And some of the calls, like, we've heard people saying in the Trail Talk community and on Instagram DMs and replies to stories and all this type of shit. I'm sure you're getting it too. Sponsors need to drop her. She needs to be stripped of titles. All of these random, mad, weird things. I'm saying, look, the running is the running. The trolling is the trolling. Let's get a statement out about the trolling. And I don't know, what could they say?
I don't know, but what could she say? How can you own up to even though, like, is she going to own up to it? Or is it going to be like, nah, somebody wrote that about me, or somebody else has been doing that? And she'd probably go down that road rather than own up to it. Because if you own up to that, how do you come back from that? How do you actually come back from that? How do you face anyone in the running world and them take you seriously, or them want to engage with you? Because what if this is all super true? I mean, she has gone down an awful road, man, and I don't see a way back for her, really, because you're bad mouthing really good people. Like, you're just bad mouthing these people just don't understand it. What are they doing? Sitting in their house at home on the keyboard, typing this shit up about people, I just don't get it. It's so strange. It's like, what happened that you felt the need to do this? That's what I can't get my head around that. Can't get it.
There must be so much negativity or like something not nice inside you to for that to come out. For me as a person, I steer away from anything negative. Like if it's not something I have to deal with, don't involve me in it. I'm walking the other way. It's no bearing on me. I can't impact that. For them to actually be coming up with the ideas to do this and then do it. And let's say like it's not just Camille, it's her husband Connor, and he has a history of doing this stuff too. I think I could be wrong, but I think it was maybe Brett Hornig that said in person he had an encounter with Connor who questioned something that he'd said in a previous podcast, questioning her ability or some bullshit. I don't know what it was. But he got physically like in his face about it. And also Eric from URP posted on Twitter in a thread about this that he actually had a phone call once from Connor saying like, you know, you're a CUNT and, blah, blah, blah for saying something about Camille as well. And it's not like people are attacking her character. And you're maybe saying, well, maybe that record doesn't stand up as well as a Courtney triple, or like it's this level of stuff that she's lashing out against. So I think it's a two of them. It's not one. A little bit embarrassing that Connor's Irish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the DMs have been, he's Irish.
But can you imagine like being in the sitting room with them when they're coming up with this and they're saying, I think we should do this. I think we should get all this together, make up all these fake IP addresses, and then just start trolling. What kind of a mindset do the two of them have that they get together and think this is a good idea? Like, on what level could that ever be a good idea? But it's just like, why feel the need to do it? I don't get it. Like Camille Herron has done some brilliant stuff, She's won some amazing races, she's broke some amazing records. And then she goes and does this, and like, oh man, like she doesn't have the best reputation like in the world, but it's definitely gone flattened now anyway.
Yeah, like I've said it in the community and some of the chats. It feels for some, certainly for me, like the curtain has fallen and their trousers are down. Because we've seen this type of behavior without concrete evidence for years from Camille and from the couple, really. And it feels like this incident is sort of like, oh, you've been caught red-handed doing the thing that we thought that you were doing, but we didn't know it was this level. Like previously, it was like passive aggressive Twitter replies and stuff like this. I think I defended Courtney in one Twitter post at one point, and I got blocked I think about 8 or 9 months ago. So I don't even see Camille on Twitter or X or whatever. But my theory on why this happens, first off, I think there's some sort of toxicity coming from Connor's contribution. But I think with Camille, she is just so competitive. Like, that competitive nature that makes you a champion. I think it's that, but it's kind of gone wrong. Instead of the athlete going to any ends and, maybe going past the line of what's okay, like EPO and steroids, she's gone past the line of what's acceptable in another sense. It's just like, frankly, it's like WTF moment for me. But that's why I think it's happened. In terms of a statement, get something out there, guys. Let's hear it. Let's move on because we don't want this hanging around forever. It's big news yesterday and today, and probably, it'll go quiet for a few days and then something will come out. Like, how would you like it to wrap up?
Yeah, like you want to see a statement. You want to see her own up to this, apologize, say something. Of course you do. But I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath. I think she'll just block everybody. It won't be just you. She'll block everybody. It'll be like, don't know how this is going to go. Like she's going to be sitting there now thinking, well, if I own up to it, I'm finished. If I don't own up to it, will it just go away? Will it just go away? I don't know. I don't know. It's awful. It's so embarrassing. I think it's just really, really embarrassing. That look, whatever about somebody saying, "Oh, well, I think Courtney's better than you," or I think you're better than Courtney. She went to that whole new level of like, I'm just gonna make all this up so that I look like I'm the best ultra runner in the world, rather than, I don't know, actually going and doing some of the races that Courtney does. Or like some things, they're not even incomparable. Like you run on this, she runs on that. It doesn't matter. You can both exist as just two brilliant ultra runners. Don't be getting so jealous. Don't be getting so paranoid. It's just another level of craziness, I think.
Next hot topic, Nnormal super shoe, super foam, race day shoe. I've got it on the gram. What do you think?
Max cushion, that's what it's going to look like. It looks like it. There's a lot of cushion on it. And I saw you had comparison with the 005. You're probably going to talk about that in a minute, but I mean, very similar. As in, I've held the 005. I've saw the 005 held in my hand, super light shoe, but that foam on the Nnormal in the pictures that you've put up is very similar to that. So, yeah, very interesting shoe. Very interesting shoe. Like compared to something like the Kerjag, which is more minimal, now they've gone like, I know the Tom Ear is there, like kind of like a speed go, but then this is looking like max cushion, probably a super light foam as well. I don't know, maybe like a P-Bax or an EVA or a bit of both. I'm not sure what's going to be in it, but whatever it will be light. Yeah.
I'm going to drop some bombs here. Yeah, so I reached out to Nnormal to just ask them the question, because I do chat to Nnormal quite a lot. It really tailed off whenever, the Kai Box trial went the other direction. But we'll say nothing. They said, look, it's a prototype. That's all we can say. Thanks for asking. But I do know some other people, and what I've been told is this is not a newer prototype of the Kai Box, whatever. So it's not that. It's a new prototype. I then also got another message from somebody else who is also in the know, and they said, look, next year, Nnormal are dropping a soft ground Sherag, and we have more bombs, dropping bombs everywhere here. Somebody else, who I can't say, but they told me that this foam is a supercritical PIBA foam, which is the same as what's in all the super shoes, same as what's in the Norda 005. So that makes sense. It's also going to be the drop sole, the default sole that comes in the Kai bikes. So we're starting to paint a picture here of what's happening. But before I pass it back to you, it looks like Nnormal have gone the Norda route. So they're gone race day shoe, which is what the 005 is, but no plate, big squish. What do you think?
Yeah. Again, I'm a big fan of something like Tecton X3, right? Carbon plate. Well, carbon plate doesn't work for everybody, and carbon plate, some kind of trail races, there's a time and a place for a carbon plate. If it's a more runnable sort of trail, yeah, the carbon plate's gonna get you some serious speed. But then if it's very, very technical and it's very, very rocky and you're bouncing from one rock to the other, the carbon plate can have an effect where it almost springs you back, backwards, and that can be annoying. So you will see, I think, a lot of trail shoes going for that ultra light max cushion, but like that super light. And then I think same as Nnormal are doing the same as that. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting shoe for sure. It looks like it's going to be super soft underfoot. Great ultra race day shoes for, so like you're looking at something like for UTMB, you're looking at something for CCC maybe as well. So yeah.
You got to think that a PIBA foam would be very nice on that 16K descent. That wasn't super technical. That was pretty buttery for Elysine at the weekend.
Yeah. Like for me, I'm running in the Tecton X3, right? So that's got a PIBA foam and it's got the plate in it. But like, because I'm Hawker, right? I can't say, oh, well, I know what it's like to run this one. But that foam in that shoe on the descent is so good. Like, it's the best shoe I've ever ran it. So that is working. That's what all the companies are going to be doing now. They're going to be using that PEVA foam and whatever other little special secrets they have to make that shoe extra light and extra squishy. And you would think that, oh, maybe it'll be too soft for those kind of trails, but it's not. Whatever way they're doing it, it's so fast, it's sure underfoot, and that's what all the pros are going to be racing in. And look at LSC, like, it wasn't slowing him down. It wasn't making him second guess his foot strike. He was planting his foot, sub 3 minute Ks, like, phenomenal.
Yeah, it does seem like this is not a shoe we've seen on Killian at all, which I think's interesting. It's good that Nnormal are kind of not branching out, but expanding past the development shoe of whatever Killian would wear, because he did wear the Tomir or some sort of version of the Tomir for a lot of his 4,000 meter peaks project. I think this is interesting. The Norda is between 210 to 15 grams. It's a light shoe. You got to think for Nnormal they have to be coming in somewhere similar, but the upper seems way more built up than the Norda shoe. But again, this is a prototype. Yeah, interesting. The Norda shoe is dropping in March of next year, and we're going to have some exclusive content on that before the launch. The Nnormal shoe, let's just see how things go. Definitely drop a comment down below if you want us to keep tracks on this prototype and keep drip feeding some intel, because I've got a couple of moles, Ricky. We can get information from 3 or 4 sources, which is good. Quick pause in the show just to thank our sponsors, TORQ Nutrition, AFRN10 for 10% off. Use it. Lemon drizzle, that's my favorite. Vanilla pod drink mix, another OG flavor. So love them. Go and buy them. Kicks us a few quid, and we appreciate it. Also, GOREWEAR.com for the amazing 30% off discount code I Run Over Mountains 30. Please use that. 1 use per email address. So if you're going again, use your partner's email address. It's too good a code not to get a second go. If you want any recommendations on gear, Impulse half tights are a favorite of mine. I've even cut them, make them a bit shorter, but I've got multiple pairs. Concurve, GTX, raincoat, absolutely amazing rain jacket. I used it all through my Bob Graham round. It's got a little magnet on the hood, so it doesn't even flap around whenever it's windy. So definitely give GOREWEAR some love. But now back to the show. Moving on to our next topic. He has risen. He is back. Anton, he is back. What do you think, Anton? Grindstone 100 miler, led for over half of it, ultimately finished second. Fucking amazing, right?
Yeah, that's so 2 stories happened. Camille's story happened, and that's like, oh my God, what has she done? And then Anton comes and just knocks it out of the park. Anton, because I love the man. He can do no wrong, right? And then when you see him do something like that, and then UTMB were straight on it, straight up with that reel. I shared it, you shared it. Who doesn't want to see Anton Krupicka rocking up to UTMB? Like, I mean, that is just, the king is back, right? I know they call Killian the GOAT, but Anton Krupicka is the king. I just think he is ultra running. He's one of the reasons I started this sport, like, because watching videos of Anton Krupicka, shirt off, long hair, running with a handheld bottle, it just is so badass, and it's so cool to see. And look, he's still a legend, and he's still able to win these big races. So exciting, so exciting.
Killian wasn't cool. Killian was never cool. We just respected him as a person, his accomplishments. Anton has always been cool. Like, for years, he hasn't raced. He's still sponsored. He still gets all of the views. Like, UTMB have shown, actually, that their social media team have their finger on the pulse, because they had that shit out right when we were thinking about it. So they got the content out straight away. It's so cool.
Anton Krupicka is one of those dudes that whatever he does, I'd watch him. Like when he got injured and he wasn't a trail runner for years, all he was doing was cycling around on his bicycle. What did I do? I bought a gravel bike. Because the man just does cool shit, and I want to copy nearly everything he does, right? Because he's the master. He goes scrambling up a rock. I want to go scrambling up a rock. For us, trail geeks, trail nerds, trail fans, we always were like clinging to that hope of, is he back? Is he back? When he did Leadville a couple of years ago, right? I'm right with Leadville, and he was second in that too, and it was like, oh, he's back. And then he got injured again, and I was like, oh, he's not back, and he's injured again. But this gives us hope, right? This gives us all hope, and it's such a feel good story, isn't it? It's so cool. So
Yeah,
cool.
we need the good and the bad. We needed to balance it out. But yeah, he's on a trajectory that the last few years he's had a couple of non-starters, but he has been doing a few races. What did he ran Lavaredo, didn't he? He did Leadville, had a great result there, and then this year he's gone and run Grindstone. His goals for the race: one, win it. He nearly did. Two, podium and get a UTMB finale entry, and three, finish. So, as he said himself, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. I'm going to Chamonix, baby. He didn't say that bit. I just put words into his mouth, but he's going to Chamonix. Like, what can he do around Mont Blanc?
Yeah, I know. Like we'll say at the point the end of UTMB, you'd imagine that race is going to be way too fast for, let's say, an older Anton. Okay, like I don't know what age. I'm not sure exactly what age Anton is, but he's not a young man anymore. He's about
Still
my
younger
age.
than us. Still
Yeah,
younger
there you
than us.
go. Yeah, yeah, but he's around so long. He hasn't had the best time with injuries. He can still grind it out. He can still win some big races in America, like he just did there, or second in Grindstone. But I just feel like he won't be fighting for a top 5 finish at UTMB, but top 10, he could definitely be top 10. You know, how cool would it be to see him back in UTMB? I'm not racing in UTMB next year because I'm hoping to go to the Worlds and the Pyrenees. But Anton's a big enough reason to go back to the 10 for a month just to get a look at him. Hey, like that's going to be deadly to see him walk around Chamonix.
You'll be in Chamonix during UTMB week. Mark my words. You just won't be racing, but we'll be busy. So let's just spend a minute here. What sort of time? So we know, like, yes, I totally agree. He's not going to be at the front of the field, but hypothetically, on a day, what does he run? What does he complete the loop in? Are we talking 22, 24? I don't think 20. Like, I think, we're 22 plus is maybe where we're going to start this.
I'm going to think in around that 21:50 to 22:30, in around that. I think that he's still good enough to do that. He's still able to rip up the trails. He's still got that speed. You know, I just don't think he's going to be challenging that the 20 hour, the sub 20 hour. But I think like 21:50, and just maybe sneak inside that top 10. You know, which will be unreal to see. Unreal to see. La Sportiva, wonder what they're going to do for him, you know? I mean, that's going to be an incredible thing to see as well.
I know what they're going to do for him. They're going to strap on a pair of Prodigio Pros and say, away you go. We'll see you in Courmayeur in the morning. So that'll be cool. Stick it down in the comments. Let us know what sort of time you think Tony could run the UTMB in, and that'll be an interesting one just to see what the community think. Staying on the UTMB flavour, look, we had a big summer. You had a big summer. You had a great TDS. We've spoke about it, and it feels like almost old news. But just like on reflections of the summer and moving into winter, more so than next year, what's the rest of the year? What is the focus for you?
Yeah, so for me, was going to jump in and do the Wicklow Way race, which is a big kind of famous race here in Ireland, and it's 127k. And I was feeling really good after TDS, and I was thinking, do you know what? I think I could do it. It's a quick turnaround. It's on the 18th of October. But then I got sick. I picked up like a flu or a cold or something, and it wiped me for like 4 or 5 days. And then I was like, is that my body telling me that maybe just too soon to go straight back into back in and go to the well for 127k, another like 13, 14 hour kind of a run. So I'm thinking I'm not going to do that. And then by not doing that, then I need to go look for a race in November. And I'm still on the hunt. I'd like to do one more race to finish out the season. Like I've done a couple of shorter races over the last few weeks, just sort of messing around, playing around with 5Ks and getting some speed back. But I would like to do one more race, but I haven't found what I want to do just yet. I haven't found.
What about the Sky Race in the Mourns? It's in probably 3 weeks, 50-ish K. I know entries are closed, but I know you get. I know I can get an entry for it and they're closed, so I think you can get an entry for it.
Yeah, I just like me again. Like I don't want to do a race unless I feel like I can be at the point in challenging for the win. You know, that's just the way. Like here in Ireland, it's the way I want to do it. Like I want to be in the best shape possible for the best result possible. I don't want to just turn up and think I'm a bit fit and then finish like 10th. Okay, like there's no problem. You can race for fun, you can do whatever. But for me, I put a lot of time and effort into it. I want to be finishing as close as I can to the podium, and I want to be able to race 100%. That's the way I want to. I want to be able to lay it all out there on the line. If I don't feel like I can do that, then I'll just keep training. Because at the end of the day, I love training as much as I do racing, and I'll keep training until I feel like I'm super fit, and then I'll jump into a race. Like that's kind of the way I like to do it.
You know what? I feel like I'm still tired from the summer. I don't know if I picked up something or what. Like just that 3 week period of UTMB that you raced, but we were also super busy with Trail Talk. And then I had this kind of compressed little week of training for Tor. I probably should have like rested more, but I was just living in the van, washing in rivers, and probably just like being a little bit too much of a dirtbag for a week, and then straight into Tor. Which dude was 800 kilometers driving. And he was like going, you guys are out for like 12 to 24 hours between legs. There's 5 legs in Tor. I only maybe have 1 to 3 hours of driving between each leg, but it just felt like, you wanted to leave and get to the next place, park up, make sure you could get parked, suss everything out before your runner would come in, before front runners would maybe come in if I was filming that. You ended up, like, I think the second or third night of Tour, I got 2.5 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. So I was exhausted. I've had this kind of food thing from, I think maybe from the Mont Zebroni Sky Race in May. Sort of felt like, when you stand on a sharp rock, feels like you've bruised a bone or something. So under the second toe, felt like I bruised that bone, and I just trained through it because it's a bone bruise. You feel it until you don't feel it, and then whatever. Now with some extra days rest and being away from the Alps, it's actually getting worse. So I'm booked to go and get an MRI tomorrow. Stuck on the bike until we know what the crack is. But it could be like stress fracture or a stress reaction in like under the second toe. Or physio that I use said it's like the plantar plate, and which is like where the metatarsals connect onto or some shit like that. I don't know, but it is what it is. It's been a while since I've had an injury, and it does me no harm because I need somebody to hold my arm behind my back for me to get the turbo trainer out and set up the bike in the house, because it's a lot out faffing about. But it's set up now. I've used it a few times. I've got seated bike intervals for later today in the training plan. So that's me. I'm not ready to talk about what I can do after that, because it's just like, I've got this hurdle, and as long as I can get it cleared up in the next, 3 weeks, it'll not really alter any plans. So I think I can get some good bike fitness from it anyways.
Yeah, like injuries suck, man. And I know I kind of knew you had something up with your foot from last week, and you were telling me of the MRI. So obviously we all wish you the best of luck with that, and hope that the recovery's not too long on it. Nothing sucks more when you can't get out and run. And yeah, the turbo is an awful thing. But look, it's coming into winter. It's coming into crap weather. You're back in London. You're not in the Alps now. So it's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. The timing could be actually pretty good. You get a good base built on the bike. You come back from injury, and then you can start planning 2025. The season's really wrapped up anyways. Even for myself, I'd like to do one more race. If I do one more race, brilliant. If I don't, it doesn't matter. I'll just keep building that base and take it into 2025, and we'll have a great 2025, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what we get up to. It's gonna be brilliant. Like I've really enjoyed this season with Trail Talk. We've kind of gone full bore into it this year. It's been brilliant. We've got a couple of WhatsApp groups. We've got loads of people joining in with conversations and reels and stories, and it's been a fantastic year, you know.
But look, on that note, let's hop over and listen to our guest interview for this episode. So, Ricky, I'll see you later. Volker Fohrmeister, welcome to Trail Talk. Introduce yourself and let us know where you're joining from.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you for having me here. I'm joining from the west side of Germany, actually. I am, what have you called us? An ultra trail nerd? I'm not so
We are
much
the same,
into it, to be honest. But I love to run in the mountains, and that's where we met a couple, like 2 weeks ago now. Gotta be 2 weeks at Tor Des Geants in the Italian
Yes.
Alps. But
So we met at the Gresini Life Base when I was there crewing for Tor Des Geants. You were running the Tor des Glaciers, and I think that was 280 kilometer mark for you. Is that right?
yeah, more like 300, I'd say.
Okay.
But yes, somewhere in that ballpark. Yes.
Yeah, and I was sitting there. I had several hours to wait, but my kind of plan was get done at the life base, get to the next one, and then have the spare time there and fill in that with interviewing athletes, asking them about their shoes, asking them why you run in the tour and this type of thing. And so I went over to you. I think you may have been one of the only people awake in that life base at the time. And you were pretty relaxed, pretty chilled, but like a long way into your race. And we'll dig into that in a little bit. Yeah, so we met during your Tour de Glacier, which for the audience, that's 200 or 450 kilometers, somewhere around 30,000 meters of elevation change, and you finished second place in 138 hours. And you're a veteran, let's say, at this race. But we'll dig into that. So let's maybe start it off with the Tour de Glacier and see how are you feeling right now post race. As you say, 2 weeks on.
Still a bit tight. Still hungry like a teenager. I'm eating like tons of food at the moment. But otherwise, yeah, my toes are still a little bit numb, but the feet are, when I was sitting in Gresini meeting you, I probably have recognized that I had taped up feet. I don't know if I already was at the Bottleoaks or not, but my feet were pretty blown and pretty inflamed. Had a lot of pain in my feet. So that is gone, luckily. I already did like a 5K run the other day, which felt weird, but it was doable. So give me like 2 more weeks and I'm back in shape.
Ready to go.
Yeah, maybe not ready to go, but ready to do a little bit more training. Right now I'm doing like 1 hour bicycle ride per day, which is not a lot, but enough to let the blood flow, clear the mind, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so before we dig into the race, and I have a ton of questions about it, I'd love to get a picture of your background in ultra running, how you got into it, and what led you to several races at the Tour de Geants, Tour de Glacier event. Like, how did you get to this point?
Good question. I think I started ultra running or running at all in 2016. when I finished my master's degree, I believe. And, I've seen this. It actually was the internet. I've seen these huge races, somehow stumbled upon videos of those grueling races, the races that were just the rage back in the days, like Badwater and the 100-milers in America and all this stuff. And now I'm thinking, okay, that is a huge challenge. That looked interesting. So I started running a little bit and immediately got into my first ultra run. It was just around the corner, like a 1-hour car drive. And it was a 70K, I believe. That was my first run, back in 2016, yes. But for me, it was clear that I wanted to up the distance rather than the speed, at least back then, yes.
So you were greatly influenced by the heyday of Salomon TV and all of these things. What would we do without YouTube?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I just watched a couple videos. I was back then doing some downhill mountain biking and some taekwondo, and always researching for ways to improve my fitness. And I don't know how exactly, but I stumbled upon these ultra endurance events, and these for some reason appealed to me, like this mindset of keep going and overcoming your challenges, like also like troubleshooting within the event. That for some reason appealed to me very much.
Yeah, we see more and more that the hardest events, like one of the components of the most grueling events, isn't it's to do with the ability to like problem solve over a long period of time while juggling nutrition, sleep deprivation, muscle fatigue, and all of these things together. And we keep seeing scientists, data scientists, like people with high levels of education gravitating to these types of events. And I'm just learning today that you're another one of these people.
Well, I'm not a data analyst, but I work in engineering, yes. I work in computational mechanics. So yes, I am trained. I'm a trained problem solver, so to say. Yes.
Yeah,
that's true.
So when did you start stepping up the distance? Was it simply from 60K, you increased every year? And what were those steps sort of like?
If I remember correctly, it was 70K, then 100K, and the next year I bumped it up to my first 100-miler, I believe. And then, like 3 years later, I ran my first Tor des Geants, like 2019. That was actually my first race in the Alps too. So that was quite a step from, rather flat 100-miler to probably the race in the Alps with the most elevation gain per kilometer. But it was super interesting for me, and back then I was admiring the guys who did like podium there or the top 10. Thinking that is impossible. How can you possibly go so fast in these kind of races? Like they barely sleep at all, sleep like maybe an hour during 330K. Like officially, everybody knows that the Tor des Geants is a little bit longer than they say. We like to call it Italian kilometers.
Yeah.
And 2019, my first Tor des Geants, yes. And I barely made the qualification time for Tor des Glaciers, which was introduced 2019. It was 10-year anniversary of Tor des Geants, and they introduced the Tor des Glaciers. And then 2020 was the pandemic year, no races. And then in 2021, I thought I would make up for that and just run Swiss Peaks and Tor des Glaciers in like 2.5 weeks, so 2 big races. And then I just kept going from there.
There's not much scope for it to go anywhere after once you've done the Swiss Peaks Tor des Glaciers double. Like there's not much more than that.
That's not true. Like in 2022, I thought, okay, I was completely wiped out after the double, so why not try the PTL before? And then I actually started the PTL, which I did not finish, sadly, because my partner had a fall and we had to bail out after 130K. So I think it was 2 nights. We went 2 nights and then we had to bail out. But I still finished Swiss Peaks and Tor des Glaciers afterwards.
So you have a little bit of the crazy that Claire Barnworth also has, because that's the type of thing that she would do. And I don't know anyone else that would sign up for such trilogies.
Luca Papi did the Swiss Peaks and Tor des Glaciers double, and he was very accomplished. Like he won Tor des Glaciers afterwards, like 2 times, I think. So there are a couple people doing this kind of stuff. But yes, Claire's really, she's a different monster. Like this year, I believe she did UTMB, Swiss Peaks, and Tor des Geants, I think, and even got third at Tor des Geants. So that is extreme.
Yeah, there's someone like Claire, she seems to, and I think this is a quality that a lot of the best runners have, is this just crazy ability to recover and go again.
Yeah, but I thought about that a lot. I cannot do that. I can't run these long races so much, like every weekend. She's out there like every weekend. And I mean, she's not only running, she's competing. She's competing for top 10, for a podium. And it is just what she does. And her body probably adapted to that, and to mine too.
Yeah, it's so much in the mind. So with Tour 450 and your progression, you've had, is it 4 starts, 3 finishes? Is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
And this year you finished second. It's your highest place and your fastest time. What's that progression been like for you?
I know after I did the double 2021, and I was definitely tired going into Tor des Glaciers. I was injured, like I was limping the last 100K of Swiss Peaks, and then I had like a huge bandaged lower leg. Probably nobody believed that I would make it past the 50K during Tor des Glaciers, and then somehow I finished. And then the year after, I did the double, and I actually got 7th place. And I was fast in the end. I mean, I wasn't fast, but I was fast for already having run 400K before, right? And I was passing guys. I pushed myself to 7th place, and I was thinking, okay, what can I possibly do with not running the races before? Going fresh into this event. And I'm curious now how fast I can go. So last year, I went out pretty aggressive, but sadly I had to bail out at Konya because I got sick, having a lung edema, and it took quite a while to recover from that. And I believe this year I also got sick like 1 week before the race. So I'm still very curious how fast I can go when they start the line for 1 week.
Was that the sort of the seed in the back of your mind? How quick can I do this race?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, because I mean, especially with a race of that distance and that length in time, you're out there for 100, 40 hours. There's always something you can improve upon. Always. You can shave off not like minutes, but hours, really.
Yeah.
And
like whenever I think about that type of distance and even the 330, it feels like for me, if I was going into the 330, I'd be thinking, well, I just have to protect my leg descending from the start. What are your thoughts entered into the 450? Like, where are you trying to preserve your body? Where are you not burning matches, but exerting more effort than normal? Or is there a change throughout the week?
you're pretty much preserving until you can see the finish line. Like, I never heard about someone who said, "Oh, I should have run the first hill faster." That is just not a thing. Like we are going out way too fast all the time. Everyone does it. And then you're up at Elisabetta, and that is the first refuge you're running to, and everyone's too fast, like for real. And that is, by the way, something that Luca Papi does very well. He's usually front of the mid pack in the beginning, and then he starts to take people like 100K, 150K in. And I was very conservative this year because I already told you I was sick the week before. I had fever, I was coughing. The coughing was still there when I started. So I was very conservative, just feeling into my body how this develops, going rather slow, but trying to be very efficient. And I think that is the mindset you're going through such an event. You always try to be efficient and leave a little bit of reserve, so to say.
Yeah. I think that would go down in the Hall of Fame as things people never say. And after an ultra trail, I should have run that first hill faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's interesting to know that you're also having that kind of same mindset of preservation until you can kind of see the finish, or it's the next mental step is to the finish, the last push, the last day or portion of the day or whatever that may be. What was it that you worked on improving from an efficiency standpoint? Let's say from maybe not last year because of the bad experience, but in the previous experiences through to this one in terms of life bases and nutrition, things like this?
Pretty much everywhere. I try to improve my fitness. That, as I said, the winter training was a little bit not working well because I still have to recover from the DNF, from the pretty rough DNF last year. So I think I was not as good in a shape as last year, but I was more experienced. So I was faster on the aid stations, I believe. I knew what to eat. I knew where to eat a lot and where to, maybe make the stop a little bit shorter. I ate more on the trail, like more drink mix, more gels. That helped a lot. Knowing the track, they changed a little bit here and there, but overall the track was the same. So navigation is a little bit easier. I also did some recce hikes. I pretty much discovered the whole track from Cognon this year to see how it looks, to see everything during daytime, which I never did before, so that I make less mistakes during navigation. And, navigational mistakes, usually they take like maybe a minute, maybe two, but still it is frustrating. It is hard on the mental side to go into the wrong direction and then have to trace your way back on the track. So I really try to improve on that.
And what is it that you're using for navigation? I assume it's GPX on the watch. Just on a side note, outside of Gressenay, I was also asking runners these questions on the mic, and so many of the Tor des Glaciers runners went up the road instead of along the track. When you come out of the life base and you go right and then you go right again onto the trail, so many of them went left and walked up there. Like, guys, it's this way. And like, they must have been following a previous GPX.
Maybe. Actually, the GPX file is pretty much the same as it was like 2019. They changed a couple sections, but it still has some, let's say, some artifacts, some quirks here and there, which are very, very annoying, especially when you have to navigate through the fog in the night, somewhere where the signs are hidden, somewhere overgrown with some bushes. And I remember that after the live base in Gressenay, there also was a problem with the GPX file leading you over a closed bridge. somewhere right behind the live base. But that bridge was actually open this year. And it was the same way as the Tor 330 runners are going, I think.
Yeah.
So the GPX file was actually right this year, but it was leading you over this closed bridge the years before. Yes.
So let's touch a little bit on nutrition. You mentioned this year you used more drink mix and gels. And for a lot of people, they would be thinking a week long of racing and consuming gels and things like that. So break down for us what kind of the high level nutrition plan was. You know, I assume that the gels and drinks was something you were able to restock from your bag, your life base.
Yeah, that is actually a very huge topic, because you have to go for about 100 miles, 160k to Konya, and then you have your first drop bag access. So you have to carry food for 160 kilometers with like 10,000, 11,000 meters of elevation gain, some tricky passes in there. Like I'd say the most technical passes in the race even. So that takes probably 2 days for most runners. Carrying food for 2 days is that are a couple of grams of gels that you're carrying. So you have to rely on the refugios to give you at least some food. And then I usually bump it up with a lot of drink mix because it is light. Like when you're carrying like 100 grams of drink mix, that are usually like 99 grams of carbs, right? And water you can get pretty much everywhere. So that is easy to carry. Usually I rely on the food that they give us at the refugios, and then during the sections in between, I go for drink mix and a couple of gels, not too many. I was actually having problems with my mouse this year. I heard a lot of people had, like when you're breathing in the cold air for several nights, like your mouth get damaged and your lips are getting damaged, and that makes swallowing real food pretty hard. Like that took quite a while for me to gulp down like like one portion of pasta maybe. I was not able to go for pasta with tomato sauce, which is a classy in Italy. You know, they have pasta with tomato sauce everywhere. And I always said, oh, no, please, not the tomato sauce. There's acid in that, and that is burning in my mouth so much. I cannot swallow that anymore. No way.
So you were on plain pasta?
Plain pasta with a little bit of oil. Yes.
Okay. All right. Oil, you redeemed it a little bit there. That was sounding terrible for a moment. A week of plain pasta and drink mix doesn't sound
It is
too
pretty
appealing.
much that. It is pretty much that. Like they have different kinds of food at the refugios, but mostly it is pasta, yes.
I met I met runners not in the 450 but in the 330 that were drinking wine and having the odd beer and having some charcuterie at a refugio and things. They're having a bit of a holiday of it. So
you can do that. You can do that for sure.
Yeah,
like
the
I've seen wine
refugios are very
bottles
friendly.
on the tables. Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like that first 160k couple of days pack must have been pretty heavy, even if you are siding more on drink mix. As you say, that it's much more carb dense. So what sort of starting weight was the pack?
Good question. I don't know. I've never weighted that.
If you don't know the weight of it, how are you going to make that more efficient next year?
I know that I don't want to carry too much. I would not call it waste weight, but when you're carrying like 100 grams of carbs with the gels, there's a lot of water in it. And when you're carrying drink mix, it is way more efficient. Yes. But
Yeah, it
I
makes a lot
believe
more sense.
I went on the light side this year. Like I had very, very good gear, I believe. Just by trial and error. I know which kind of rain jacket I'll go to, which kind of rain pants, which kind of crampons. They were mandatory this year, so we had to carry our crampons, and you could shave off a couple grams here and there, but still, a very light rain jacket is of no use when it is not protecting you from the rain. So you still have to test it out. Yes.
Yeah. So did you have any particular carb or calorie goals per hour? Or what way were you like mentally breaking this down? A lot of people will be going into races of a shorter distance going, I'm going to do 80, 100, whatever grams of carb an hour. It's 2-3 gels. It's a gel and a drink mix. What was your kind of mind notes for this? It feels like it's more like I'm going to eat a bowl of pasta and then I'm going to give us a flavor of this.
Yeah, you know the well-known quote from Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. That is exactly the same with this kind of races. Yes, you do have a plan, and it is important to make your calculations and have an idea how fast you want to be from one section to the other, and then you just guess how many carbs you can gulp down there and how many carbs and what actually you can gulp down, like a gel or drink mix or maybe a bar or something. And then it usually changes during the event. Like some parts were way slower than expected. Some parts were unknown because they changed the track. Some parts have been way slower because of the weather. From Wednesday on, we had this very cold weather with snow at the mountains. So you pretty much have to adapt, yes. And I was eating not enough, absolutely not enough. I still have to improve on that side for sure. So I was calculating with like 80 grams per hour, but I was way slower than expected, especially in the first part.
And are you thinking about fluid intake as well if you're relying on drink mix or mostly between life bases? Because it feels like if you're using the drink mix, you're then having to ration how much fluid you can consume.
Yeah, I was calculating that, and but then, it is always a function of the weather too. Last year I remember we had a heat wave when we started the race, so it was super hot. We had to drink like 3 times the amount that I did this year. So also there, you just have to adapt. And I had a spare third bottle in my pack so that I could carry 1.5 liter. You also usually can grab a half-liter bottle from the refugios, these recyclable bottles, just push it in your pack so that you have like 2 liters, just if it's getting really hot. But luckily this year was not a warm year.
No, it certainly wasn't. I had different kind of concept pre-tour of what the crewing and press experience was going to be like, and I thought I was going to be definitely topping up my suntan before leaving the Alps for another season, and it was not the case. It was never really. It wasn't summery at all. Sometimes it was more pleasant than other times, and sometimes it was just flipping cold and wet.
Yeah. Well, I like the weather, to be honest. I like the weather despite the snowstorm I went into last morning when I was climbing up to the Col du Grand Saint-Bernard. I was going right into a snowstorm with like no vision whatsoever. I was pretty much crawling up there and it was super cold. And they told me at Cressonay, which was the last aid station where I had access to my bag, that the weather will be okay, like good for the rest of the week. So I was not having like the very heavy gear with me. So I was going up there in shorts and some leg warmers and a rain jacket, a very light rain jacket, and that's it. So that's exactly what you're sparing your energy for. When I was talking about you always have to have a little bit of reserve. Like this is this is the stuff that can hit you in the mountains from like one moment to the other. And then you really have to push through.
Yeah. It's one of the really interesting details between the 330 and the 450 is the lack of access to the bag.
Yeah. Like, I believe for Tor des Geants, it is 6 live bases where you have access to the bag. So approximately every 50K. And for the Tor des Glaciers, it is 3 access points. For the first one in Konya after about 150, 160 kilometers. And then the last section is also about 100 miles.
Yeah.
So
that the fact that the 330 can access a life base and their bag at Ullamo this year made such a difference because that's really where the weather was after there. You can imagine if that wasn't the case, there may have been an awful lot more DNFs.
Yeah, I'm sure about that.
So let's move on to your training. I've heard that, you live in a flattish area of Germany, am I right?
Yeah, that is true. I'm living about, I'd say, one car hour from the Netherlands.
Okay.
And it is super flat. Like the largest hill I have here is an artificial hill back from the mining days. That is like 80 meters. Yeah. And then for everything else, I have to go for like 2 hours by train to get like a 300-meter hill.
I used to live in the Netherlands. I used to live in Amsterdam, and it was so flat that I realized that it wasn't trails that I loved to run. It was hills that I loved to run because the trails just seemed so boring whenever there was no undulation. So I just gave up trail running whenever I lived there and just ran on the canals because it was just more pleasant.
Do they have trails in Amsterdam?
Yeah, they do have trails, but it all feels kind of like a man-made park type of thing.
Yeah, and then half of the Netherlands are man-made. So
it makes sense.
I know some areas there and I actually like the very sandy ground of the Netherlands, but only for so long, like after an hour, maybe 2, it gets kind of boring, maybe. Yes. But that is pretty much the same stuff that we have here, yes. Without the sand. Yes.
So talk a little bit about your training and what you are able to do there to train for racing in the Alps. For the viewers who have not experienced the Alps, we're talking 10 to 45% gradients at various points in a 1,500-meter climb potentially. So how do you prepare for it, and what are the things that you focused on?
1,500 meter, yeah. I believe the climb from Danas to Koda is more like 2,000 meters. It is a long, long climb. Well, it's the same training principle as it always is. During the winter times, I try to improve, just training the machine, training the endurance, trying to improve on VO2 max, which is not super high with me. I'm not a fast runner. I don't have a big machine, but I still can improve. And then, during springtime, sometimes depends on the weather, I can make a week vacation going to the hills, maybe just the hills here in mid-Germany, maybe even to, the pre-Alps areas, just to, shake out the trail running legs a little bit. I do a lot of cycling. Like I have Achilles tendonitis for a couple of years now, so I really have to have a look at my training volume with running. I can't run that much. Well, hiking, I do like to hike a lot, but hiking here in the flats is kind of boring and useless. Yeah, it is just walking. And so, especially during the winter times, I do a lot of indoor training, like on the stair mill, on the incline treadmill, that kind of stuff, just to, don't put every eggs into one basket here, I know a lot of people who do a lot of cycling, especially during the winter times. and a lot of runners who only run. I think a good mix of everything helps me at least to stay injury free and to stay fit. And then when racing season is around the corner, you just have to get the specific training in. So in my opinion, there's no way around a vacation in the Alps, or at least somewhere where there are real mountains.
So, do you follow any particular type of training principles, like uphill athlete or any of these types of things?
Not really, no. I mean, with the training principles, I try to thrive on the basics, like building, not doing the specific stuff and far from the races, and then getting more specific in the races around. And it's usually the standard stuff, like 2 or 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and then you always have to adapt this to your life constraints all the time, right?
So how are you preparing? I'm going to say your ankles, but I kind of don't mean the ankles. I kind of just mean all of those little bits that get worked from technical terrain, from boulder hopping, and all of this type of stuff, because those are the things that kind of just fatigue really quickly if you're not used to it in an ultra trail. And this is like, calling Tour 450 an ultra trail seems like it's not enough. It's a mega trail. I don't know what it is. It's something more.
That is true. Yes, I think it is a lot. It has a lot of a huge component of experience. Like, I got better on that within not 1 year, but the last 5 years, I'd say. Like, the more I run on the trails over the years, the better I get. Like, maybe just moving more efficiently through the boulders, and in that way not fatiguing so much. And then I do a lot of strength training, especially in the winter time. And I know that there are 1 billion of different exercises you can do, and they're probably all good. But I don't know. That is too complicated for me. So I just go for the basics, like the squat, deadlift, single-legged squat. It's just the standard, very basic stuff. And do this 3 times a week in the winter times. And then when spring arrives, maybe 2 times a week. Then maybe add 1 or 2 core sessions during the week. And then I think it is a lot of specific training when the race is around. Yes.
You mentioned earlier about using the Stairmill or the Stairmaster. Are you doing that weekly? Are you doing it weighted? Are you doing it just for easy volume, or is there any sort of intensity component?
Both. I bump the volume up on the Stairmill, and sometimes even just hiking on the incline tread. And but I also try to incorporate intensity. Like, let's say I'm doing 2 intensity sessions per week, then I'd usually do 1 on the bike and 1 either on the incline tread or on the Stairmill. Usually on the incline treadmill, because then I'm running, and I feel that especially, with my case of Achilles tendonitis, I can run uphill for quite a while. That is no problem. But when I do a 20-minute interval session in the flats, I'm blown for 2 weeks. So the incline tread is a solution for me.
Yeah, and flat running isn't fun anyway.
I actually like it. I had 1 winter where I went on the track. Like, when I worked at university, we had a track, 400-meter track there. And during lunchtime, I sometimes went on the track and did my intervals. But that's sadly, setting me up for injury now. Can't do that anymore. I would love to. I'm still working on getting that sorted out.
A couple more questions for you, but moving away from training now, I'd love to know, how would you compare the Swiss Peaks 360 to probably the Tor 330, but Tor in general.
The concept is pretty much the same. I'd say the Swiss Peaks, that is a little bit younger, the race. And sometimes you get a feeling that they took the concept of the Tor des Geants and just, had a couple of screws of things to make it a little bit harder. It is a little bit longer. It stays a little bit more on elevation. The ascents and descents are sometimes a little bit steeper. With the Tor des Geants, it's usually going gradually up, getting a little bit steeper in the end of the mountain pass, and then it's going down again. And with the Swiss Peaks, sometimes you're just climbing up a wall, and then you stay on elevation, have a little bit of rolling terrain, and then it is just descending a wall again. That is just my personal experience.
Do you think that's a characteristic of the region and the mountains that are used in Swiss Peaks? Because the loop in the Aosta is perfect loop almost, and whenever you then travel around it, you realize that you're basically just traveling around the valley, going up and over calls to get to the next valley. So, is it because of the geography, or is it by design?
With the Tor des Geants, they put the Alta Via 2 and 1 together, which are probably the most long hiking trails in the valley, and they are super beautiful. And I like the logic of the race. It is going around Aosta, starting in Courmayeur, finishing in Courmayeur. Depending on where you are, 3 to 6 days later, you're finishing in Courmayeur. And with the Swiss Peaks, it is also quite logical to start at one end of the valley and then going on one side all over the mountains to the other side of the valley where it ends at the Lake Geneva. And it is a beautiful finish there. But it is very hard to last 30 kilometers, I'd say. Everyone I know that is going to the Swiss Peaks, I always say, okay, when you can see the Lake Geneva, don't think you're at the finish line. The last 30K can become really grueling.
I very nearly entered the Swiss Peaks race this year, and I held off because the context was my main race earlier in the year got stopped in bad weather, so I kind of felt like I wanted another effort, and I had a week free between UTMB and Tor. But I was kind of worried about going into Tor absolutely exhausted for those Swiss Peaks, and that's why I didn't do it. So hearing from you that it's actually harder than Tor it kind of validates that decision.
I know the thing with the harder is how you're going to run it, right? When a race is 40Ks longer, I don't know for sure how. I think the Swiss Peaks is 20 or 30K longer than the Tor des Geants. That really doesn't matter. It just takes a couple hours longer, but you just continue what you're doing anyways, like eating and moving forward. I don't know if you're more tired after Swiss Peaks. I would probably say no, but it is. You can see it at the finishing times. It usually takes especially the front people, a couple hours longer than the Tor des Geants. That is always a good indicator that it just takes a little bit more effort.
Yeah.
But it is a beautiful race.
Another question for you. What do you think the main differences are between let's call it a 30-ish hour ultra trail, 160K, 100 miler, whatever, and kind of because the next step up is 120 hours, 100 and something hours anyway, 130 hours, whatever it may be. What do you see as the main big differences there?
That is funny because I had this discussion yesterday, actually, when I was talking with Sarah Hansel, who won the women's division at Tor des Glaciers. And we were comparing ITRA or UTMB points And we think that the ITRA needs a new category for these 200-mile plus races, because they are like the 100K distance and the 100-mile distance is way more similar than like the 100-mile distance and the 200 milers. Like there's so much more complexity in the 200 milers. It is way less VO2 max and fitness and way more troubleshooting, especially with the sleep deprivation thing and stomach issues, food, dealing with the weather changes, injury, all this stuff. I believe the 200 milers are a greater puzzle to solve than the classical 100 milers. Because when you're, let's say, mid-pack or front mid-pack, you usually don't sleep at the 100 miles, even though some have a lot of elevation gain. But you usually don't have to sleep. You're pushing like one night, maybe 1.5, and that is doable. But I never heard anyone going to Tor des Glaciers and telling me that they never slept. That is just, you can't do that.
So is it just the same but more problems because of the duration, or are there harder problems to solve? Obviously, the sleep deprivation is the type of thing that sort of compounds as it adds up. Is it the biggest problem?
I would say so. It's not the biggest problem is always very individual. Like my biggest problem at the end of the race were my feet, because they were so inflamed and so painful. And I have a strict no painkiller policy, so I just have to push through the pain, and that slowed me down quite a lot. It was not the sleep deprivation for me this year, but it may be. I've heard about people who really try to push the limits on sleep deprivation, and they really went. They were running against the wall in the end. Having to nap like on the trail, probably even. And that is usually not a very efficient way to get sleep in. So yes, sleep deprivation is, I'd say, it is not bigger problems, but the probability that problems occur is, I would say, super linear with time. Maybe even exponential. Like you can plan, let's say, a marathon. You can plan a marathon very well. It is a well-known race. Thousands of people are running marathons nowadays, and your pace from the 5Ks, and you can predict your finishing times for the marathon, and you can plan like on the minute when you're gulping down a gel or when not. That is not possible anymore once you're in the hills. That is not possible anymore once you're going beyond the 100K mark, but there still, as you can plan 100K nowadays quite well, not as well as a marathon. It gets more complex. It gets even more complex when you're on the 100 miler. And then with the 200 miler, it is, as I said, you have a plan and then you adapt from day one on. So the troubleshooting component isn't very huge, I think.
So do you think that is something that with the progress of time, just with more people doing it and more experiences, that the problems would reduce, or people would just get better at dealing with them?
The second one. I mean, dealing with problem is usually preventing problems, like when you have a rock in your shoe, little stone, like in a 5K, you won't check that out. You just pump your feet through and then recover like 2 or 3 days. But when you have a little stone in your shoe at 100 miler, you just take a sit for a minute and untie your shoe and get that one out before it becomes a huge problem. And I think preventing problems is problem solving, actually. And then once they're cured, some problems you just can't solve. You just can postpone the effects, like I did with going to the podologues and getting my feet fixed for the next like 70, 100K. Like once the inflammation is in the feet, I won't get it out during the race. That is just not happening. But I can, well, I have ways to deal with the pain, let's say, so that I can reach the finish line.
So maybe we could just, if you could just elaborate a little bit on the foot issue. It sounds like it was more than just sore feet. Tell us a little bit what happened and what we did, how we did.
I usually have this, like I always had this with the longer distances, like that. It's not blisters, even though I have, let's say, a couple blisters, but the blisters are not the problem. The problem is that I usually get inflamed feet, like they're getting real. Like when you look at them, they are red and very hot, and they're usually very painful. And I believe it is due to that I don't have a lot of running volume due to the Achilles problems. So maybe I can improve there once I get my running volume up. I tried different shoes. I tried different socks. It's always the same. It's always just pain in my feet with every step. And it's just something that I have to push through. There's no way around. But it is overuse injury, I'd say.
Okay. So we're a few minutes towards the hour, so let's just wrap things up. And last couple of things I really wanted to ask you are, what does the rest of this year look like? What are your let's not call them plans for 2025. What are your thoughts about 2025?
Right now I'm going to recover. Tor is usually the race that I'm looking forward to all year, and then after Tor the season is over. So I will recover, I will go back into training, I'll do my stuff here at home, and maybe I'll do an event, maybe not, but certainly not something that I want to go in competitively. And then for next year, it is hard for me to wrap my head around it right now. Like I'm still kind of exhausted. But that's something I always say. And then, the next year you'll usually find me in Courmayeur once September hits. So probably I will try to get rid of the 16 hours that I went too slow this year to get Tierns time. But I'm still a little bit undecided. But yes, Tor usually is the race I'm training for, and maybe I'll do a couple other races before. I usually like to do at least one longer race. I was registered for Cervino Matterhorn Ultra this year, but that sadly, had to be cancelled because of the rainfalls.
Yeah, I think Paul Tierney was meant to do that race as well.
Yeah. I talked to him. He was then doing the La Tuile Trail. And he was pretty fast there too.
Yeah. Well, if you get bored, there's also the Legends Trail, which is probably not that far from you. Give you a little bit of.
That is true. That is like a
winter miles.
3-hour car drive. Yes, I did Legends Trail last year, and that was rough. That was a rough experience back then, because it was pretty much, they always advertise it for 250K, and then it's usually longer, like 270, 280K. I heard it will maybe 300K this year. Nobody knows, because they change the track every time. And it was from the 275K I did, it felt like 250K in the mud and with rain and darkness. And but I love the challenge. I love the challenge, especially for the mind. Going through like 2 nights and days in darkness in the woods, difficult navigation, at least for me, as I don't know the terrain. That was quite a challenge, and I was able to beat Claire there by a couple of minutes.
I didn't
I
know
was pretty
that.
proud of that. Now she was super strong, and was finishing together with the Belgian crowd. Marijn and Ivo and all these very fast guys. That was quite an experience.
Volker, thanks so much for your time. It's been great to get to know you a little bit, hear about your training and racing and recovery, and I hope to see you next year in GOREWEAR.
Then see you there. Looking forward to that.
Thanks.
Thank
see
you
you
for
later.
having me. It was a nice chat.
Well, what did you think? I loved it. Super solid guy. Let us know what you think in the comments. Also, you know all the other stuff that helps us get the word out about Trail Talk. Share it with a friend, like it, hit the bell, subscribe, do all that shit that helps get the word out. Peace.